Now is the time for feminine leadership. You know, leadership is a concept as old as the hills, and for most of those hills, or thousands of years, it was a masculine concept. And it's only, I study leadership, so because we usually saw leadership as such a masculine thing, and most people in the top positions were leaders, even if we look back on the study of leadership now, the early theories are called the great man theories, simply because there weren't really any great women in those prominent positions in those days. And of course, since then we know that a few good women have been added, but still there's a very masculine approach to leadership often in our organizations these days. And the masculine approach is task-orientated, and it focuses very much on an autocratic approach where I say and you do. A feminine style or approach to leadership, on the other hand, is people-orientated, and it's basically, it's collaborative. Let's figure out how to do these things together. So the old masculine ways stuck for many, many years because organizations were different then. The leaders were people who knew more, they were educated better, they had more insight into the information going around at the top of these organizations. So they had the knowledge, they had the power, they had the vision. But that has changed. So these days, we don't have followers anymore who just listen to the person who knows everything. We live in a totally new kind of economy, what we know as the knowledge economy. So these days we have more knowledge workers, and it's a group that grows in number every year. We also call them experts or expert workers or followers. And what they are is the value that they bring to organizations is not how many hours they work. It's not the manual labor that they actually output into the organization. It's the knowledge that they bring to the organization and that they create with others in the organization. So that is becoming more and more, and how they solve organizational problems. And organizations more and more are recognizing the importance of this intellectual capital. How our wealth as an organization is based on this knowledge that we have internally. So these experts are a new breed of followers. So what are they like? They know more than their bosses in many cases. Not in general, but in terms of their specialization areas, they know more than the person who manages them. And they don't like to be told what to do, especially not by a person who knows less than them in this particular area. They need to be heard. They have opinions. They don't just want to follow instructions. They have an opinion about what the best way forward is with this particular challenge, this particular problem, and they want to be heard. They are not loyal to organizations as people like our predecessors were, and they will leave if they are being treated like robots in the workplace. So how do you lead these new types of followers, these experts, these knowledge workers? First of all, you don't make decisions for them and tell them what to do. You engage them, you coach them, you collaborate with them, and you help them to collaborate with each other. You never just tell them what to do. And yeah, you get out of their way so that they can do what their expertise has showed us so many times they can do. You are accessible and transparent and even vulnerable. So you're not that person who knows everything, and you don't pretend to be. You also don't pretend like you never make mistakes or you never know the answer to a question. You listen to their ideas regardless of their rank in the organization. Because as we so often know, the person who knows best what's going on in that pain point and what the best solution might be is the person working over there, not necessarily the person who sits at the top who hasn't worked in that area in maybe 20 or 40 years. So you listen to people. Your default position is trust. So you act like you trust people and let them prove otherwise if they're not trustworthy. But you don't start from a position which is often the authoritarian or autocratic approach, where people are basically lazy and they basically want to take shortcuts. They basically don't want to work. And even if they do work, they make too many mistakes. So you have to check up on them all the time. That sort of micromanagement does not work for knowledge workers. They have the knowledge, they know what they're doing, you don't have to tell them, and they have an independence, not just of what they do, but an independence of mind, and they need to have that independence of mind. Another thing that I found in my research as well that's so important is around mistakes. Now, the old autocratic way of handling mistakes is you come down very hard on people when they make mistakes. Because as an autocratic leader, your reputation is also at stake. Their mistakes become your mistakes. And you don't, remember, you are the perfect one, the one who knows everything. Your department does not make mistakes. But in a collaborative leader type of context, you allow people to tell you create a situation, a climate in which people can tell you that they made a mistake without having heaven drop on their heads. And then you sit and say, okay, so this happened, what do we do now? How do we fix the problem? And most of all, how do we learn from it so that we don't repeat the mistake? So mistakes become something to be celebrated in a learning organization, not something that we hide, that we are ashamed about, and that we punish very heavily. And with these knowledge workers, we respect them, we respect their knowledge, because they have years of education, experience, whatever it may be, that collected their knowledge in their minds and in their way of doing. But we also respect them as people. They are whole beings. They come to work, they're not just robots going to work here. They have feelings, they have aspirations, they have entire lives outside of the doors of the organization. And sometimes we have to make individual allowances for those lives that we work with. And we need to steward those lives. So lo and behold, this kind of people-centered, emotionally intelligent, supportive kind of leadership is a feminine approach. So the time is so important for feminine style leaders to emerge. The caution here, a word to the wise, is that just because you're a woman does not mean that you are leading with a feminine style. So we all need to take a good hard look in the mirror and also have feedback from others to check whether we are actually a collaborative leader. But of course, the other side of this coin is you don't have to be a woman to have a collaborative leadership style. Everyone and anyone can be a participative, collaborative, feminine style leader, male or female. So the good news once again, with the world moving as it is now, the time for feminine style leadership is here. Now is your time. Grab it and shine.